Hello inmates, welcome and welcome back to the cellblock Scorch. This is prompt 7 and I am Peixe. I hope everybody's having a lovely week. Usually I do a lot of context before I read my story, but this time I'm just going to read the prompt and get right into it because I think the context will be better after. So the prompt was given by Cricket and it was Songs Are Vehicles. And I titled my piece, The Seventh Release of Braxen, Aftermath. Erica sifts through the rubble, searching fruitlessly for veggie nuggets! Colin, more widely known as Spaz, proud owner of the incoherent Shriek, races over, waving a data screen. What? The blast originated in a fast food joint called Veggie Nuggets. The carbon residue pinpoints massive vibrations along the toxicity fault, indicating a strong possibility of glycerolic homovacilic interaction. He babbles in between deep gulps of unnaturally purified air. Erica waits patiently for him to finish, knowing his psyche to be fragile. His excitement requires delicate care because everything he believes is false. He still isn't aware of the reality of the war, informed that these massacres are test sites. Well deduced, honey, but I don't have your training. They found a way to store the energy in food. The explosion is likely activated by contact with stomach acid. No idea how they stabilized that, but it's very clever. Such an interesting scenario they presented us with. I wonder what kind of contraption they used to mimic a person eating. It's easy to maintain the illusion of a happy fantasy science experiment, because the use of the Vox completely eliminates biological matter. No corpses left behind, no disease, no gore. Very efficient. Makes it convenient for those authorities kind enough to attempt sparing a 14-year-old prodigy from the horrific truth. There are more than a few people in the solitudes with no inkling of what's really happening in the world, especially among the younger generation. And now the vile bombs are edible. Fantastic! They've been on the losing side for decades, and the death count has never stopped rising at an accelerated rate. Rarely are there any signs of sheltered in the wreckage. The lies are necessary to keep people whole, though this entire calamity is the result of lies. Rally announcement. Our life is a lie. My people, we have been lied to. We have been betrayed by the very men we elected to represent our interests. As one of the children, it is my solemn duty to uphold justice, and I will not stand for this. Now is the time to rise up and destroy our foes, to take back our lives. We will be helpless victims no longer. As the crowd roars, Erica rushes after him, desperate to stop this rebellion before it escalates any further. Jacob, are you listening to me? What is it, Erica? Are you sure this is necessary? I mean, a war? You're starting a revolution, and I don't think it's justified. Yes, the SAV program lied to us, but their lies have caused no detriment stronger than a touch of humiliation, if that. You want us to risk our lives to overthrow a government that does more good than harm? Think about what you're doing, Jacob. It's Hakobo. I am one of the children, and as such I will protect my people with all the might of my vibrant soul. They deserve that and more from me. As for the government, they did so much more than simply lie to us. Do you remember when the SAV program was first introduced? Yes, I was in New York City on a job. I was walking across the plaza when everything was interrupted for a special broadcast. The cars halted in their routes, the hovers stilled, everything slowed down, stopped, and waited. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Then they made the announcement. They broke the silence to tell us that travel as we know it would never exist again. They'd discovered the secret to teleportation, they said. And they were right. That wasn't a lie. Teleportation is one of the best things that's ever happened to us. SAV is the most successful program ever developed. So what if they told a few lies? It's a harmless joke. They made fools of the citizenry. Big whoop. Enough. You have no idea what you're saying. The SAV program told us they'd discovered a power in our voices, in song. They'd found a way to harness it, to send us all over the world almost instantaneously, if only we sang. Songs are vehicles. SAV. We stepped into the cubicles and sang as required, and boom, welcome to Tokyo. But it was a lie, and I haven't explained it because I care about your sanity, but this has become absurd. You assume, Erica, you assume that they lied about the power in song, to humiliate us, and that they killed those who didn't sing, purposefully sabotaged their teleportation attempts. We checked. We finally got the equipment to test it. And it's possible to make the port without song. But that wasn't the lie. Their crime isn't humiliation. It isn't mere falsehood. It isn't the murders they committed among those first cynics, though they will answer for those deaths. See, they didn't lie about our voices carrying power, nor about having a way to harness it. They really do harvest power every time we sing and port. But it isn't necessary for the port itself. They steal it. And you have no idea the atrocities they're planning on committing with our vox.
Hello, inmates. Cricket here. I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on week 9 Songs Are Vehicles. I remember this week I didn't feel too strongly about either of the pieces, but Peixe ended up getting the win from me because I think hers was one that made me want more. Like, I feel like I was a little bit dissatisfied because I was like, oh, there's a lot happening here, and it's really cool and interesting, and I just, like, needed a little more detail. Whereas Bones's piece was one that just, like, didn't resonate with me. But also, it is funny that it worked that way because, for the first little while there, when it was just the three of us, we actually kind of had an accidental little cycle going where I would always pick Peixe and Peixe would always pick Bones and Bones would always pick me. And we just had a nice little circle. We messed it up like once, but in our first like 21 weeks, which was like the real time first like 5 months of doing this, that was just what happened. We just went in our nice little circle and I didn't notice until it had been going on for a long time. I think Bones had noticed earlier. But I just think it's funny that that happened, and I wanted to point it out. You'll notice in these first ones, that's pretty much the rotation that happens. Something else that was fun was way back then when we were doing this, we would all write our pieces on our little individual laptops, and then we would sit there in mine and Bones's tiny little college dorm room, and we would physically pass around the laptops to read each other's pieces. And if you didn't happen to have a laptop at that moment, you just had to sit there and watch the other people reading your piece. And I just wanted to paint that picture in your mind. We're just all sitting on a tiny twin-size bed, all three of us, trading laptops to read each other's pieces. It's been fun. It's been so fun coming back to these early Scorches again to share them with y'all. Now, back to Peixe.
Okay, so that's the end of the Scorch. I'm sorry if it wasn't particularly clear. There was the part with the rally announcement started a flashback. It's easier to see than it is to say. That's my bad. Bones actually had a good idea of how to do flashbacks that I will probably implement in the future, but I failed this time. It's okay. Anyway, context. Right, so I read the prompt for the first time. Songs are vehicles. And I was so disgusted. Hated this prompt so much, which is why it's so funny to me that I won, actually, because I hated this prompt. I read it and I was like, wow, songs are vehicles. That's gonna be some metaphorical kind of meaningful nonsense. So I decided, what if I interpret it literally instead? Because I didn't want to expend energy on emotional context for it. And then I was thinking to myself, songs are vehicles, how would I make that work literally? And I came up with the idea of the teleportation thing. I was like, wow, I don't know how science works at all. So I'm just gonna, put random, complete nonsense sci-fi words like they do on Star Trek, and I'll just go with it. And so I did that, and then, I gave a little bit of contextualization to the world and made it seem like there was more to the plot, but I honestly was just trying as hard as I could to exaggerate every single character and everything they said and make it as silly as possible was actually my goal. So I should not have won. But it amuses me that I did. Anyway, that's why I wrote it the way I did. And since I won, I prompted next week. I asked for must include the line of dialogue, "You are a sandwich." Because that was something that my little sibling screamed across the room at an older sibling. So I thought it was funny, and I wanted to see Cricket and Bones do something with that. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this week. Keep your fires burning. And check out our Patreon and anything else that we have got going on other social media and stuff. You won't regret it. Keep those fires burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. We can be reached at thestellacore@gmail.com, through comments on your podcast platform of choice, our Instagram, Stella_core, and at our YouTube, also called Stellacore. Feel free to check out our other productions on our YouTube channel or our cosplays on Instagram. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon, linked in the show notes. There, you can access the winning Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to all of the Scorch submissions.